Okay, here's the next one. A topic that has come up in many of your discussions is this idea of the feminist critique of the material, and there's a lot of rich material in there. It's somewhat hidden, and you have to tease it out, but there's a lot of it in there. One of the things we know about this culture is that it was pretty misogynistic, and women were second-class citizens in interesting ways. Given that cultural background, it's surprising that there are interpretations at all of some of this material that could be taken as a feminist. But let me talk a little bit about the second creation account, the Adam and Eve story. That story is the root of all of the suppression of women, all of it, in Western religions. They all go back to saying, well, Eve was the original woman, and Eve disobeyed God, and Eve let sin into the world. And therefore people are sinful because of this original action of this woman. And every bit of it is every misogynistic stance of Western religion, and there are lots of them, traces itself back eventually to that story. But there are other interpretations. So what if Eve was the smart one in this scenario? If you go back and read the story, and again, you shake it loose from what religion has done with it, and the ideology that religion has developed from it, if you shake it loose from that, and you look at the characters as characters in a story, as just a regular story and not a piece of a religion, and look at Eve. Well, Eve is pretty resourceful. Eve is curious after knowledge and wisdom, which Adam is not. Eve is brave because she goes against the cultural commands. Adam is not. Eve is resourceful because she acts upon her feelings. Adam is not. So in fact, from this standpoint, again, shaking the thing loose from from all of the ideological stuff it carries with it, shake it loose from that, Eve is a pretty resourceful lady. I'm going to stop, my clock is striking. Sorry about that. I'm having trouble finding a place in the house to sit where there isn't some kind of interruption. So Eve's a pretty resourceful and savvy woman. If you read the story, God says, don't eat of the fruit of that tree. And then there's a little aside there, and you see that the deity is afraid of what will happen if human beings gain this knowledge and wisdom. Basically, the deity is saying there, well, if we let them eat of that fruit, of that tree, their eyes will be opened and they'll be able to see like we do, and we can't let that happen. So the deity is in this version of the story is the original sort of oppressor of the woman. And so the actions of Eve, again, shaking it loose from the ideological underpinnings of it and the baggage it's carrying with it, Eve is a pretty resourceful lady. She's looking out for knowledge. She's hungry for knowledge. She wants to be aware and enlightened. And the underlying cultural assumptions there are working against her. So she takes the knowledge and she suffers for it, making her heroic. So that's a completely reasonable view if you take the story out of its ideological trap that it's in. Well, if you set that up, then you can see that there are a fair number of other women characters. Now remember, we're talking subjective views of people. We're not talking about people themselves. We're not talking about Eve as a woman out there objectively. We're talking about a conception of a woman in a situation. There are several other savvy women out there who sort of defeat the guys at their own game because they're stronger, smarter, and more aware of themselves than the guys are. So it's surprising. When I first read this material, I found it surprising that there was this stuff in there, that they didn't just keep it out. And I was surprised at the presence of a fair amount of models of women who are, quite frankly, more with it than the guys are. So that's a big one, and I know a lot of people have expressed interest in that. I'm happy to point you out to the other models of that same sort of woman character in there. There are 3 or 4 or 5 others of them, and they would make a very good paper, and there's lots of secondary material out there as well. So if you're interested in a feminist approach to the material, that would be a strongly literary approach, and I'm happy to help you with that and guide you, or again, you can find your way on your own if you don't need or want my help. But there's a second possibility of an approach for a paper. The reason I'm telling you this now is if you decide on your paper topic, then as you're reading, you only pay close attention, and this is a trick a scholar learns, you only pay close attention to the part of the material that supports your project. And you can, skim or skip over the rest of it. So instead of just sitting down and consuming the words, decide on a paper topic which will give your reading a direction which will make your reading much more efficient. It's something that a college student has to learn, and the sooner you learn it, the better. So if you like this paper topic, let me know. I'll put up a discussion board about this, and I'll be glad to help you with this topic. Okay, bye.